going to read one more verse and we're going to close out. But that Romans, the 10th chapter, is so important because I think I did it on the conference call, how when we went to Romans, the 10th chapter, we took every verse that was written in that chapter and showed you it comes from the prophetic writings. That whole letter of epistles put together from every verse came from the prophets. Y'all remember doing that when we did that? But if you don't know that, you would think Yahusha is just saying all of this on his own, speaking to the Romans. But in order to identify what he's saying, where he's getting it from, you would have to know that he was speaking to who? His own brethren, Israelites. So let's go to Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 10, verse 1 through 5. And we're going to close out right there. 1 Corinthians, verse 1 through 5, Akoti Kara.
1 Corinthians 10, 1 through 5. Moreover, brethren, I would not that ye should be ignorant, how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea.
Stop right there. He said, moreover, brethren. Who would his brethren have been? They would have been what? Israelites. So, moreover, my brother, I do not want you to be ignorant that all our fathers were under the cloud. What cloud is he talking about that they were under?
Cloud that was at Zion.
Huh?
Cloud that led them right there.
Yeah, the cloud that led them in the wilderness?
Yahuah's cloud.
Yahuah's cloud. So, quick question. Not only for y'all, but those of the viewing audience. Was there any such thing as Romans during the time Israelites were in the wilderness?
No.
No. Was there any such thing as Greeks at that time when Israel were in the wilderness?
No.
No. None of these nations existed at that time. So when he said, moreover, brethren, I do not want you to be ignorant that all our fathers were under the cloud. All our fathers passed through the sea and were immersed into Moses in the cloud and in the what? In the sea. So you know when you go to Corinthians, this letter is written to who? Israelites. His brothers, those were his lineage, his bloodline. His people. This is why I say we want to keep things in context when we're reading. Because if you don't have the understanding that these Gentiles in the New Testament are Israelites, you will never properly understand what's going on in the scriptures. You will never properly understand the scriptures. Because you have to have that foundation even moving forward. You can never understand what was the goal and the purpose of Mashiyach and what was the will of the Father and why Mashiyach had to come fulfill that the will if you don't understand the history of what happened with his people. He's not all of a sudden dealing with his people right here, then all of a sudden get to another area in the book, all of a sudden he's forsaking them and he's dealing with a whole new nation. That's crazy. So at this time, we're going to close out right here. We're going to say Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's in your hands, Maury.
That's going to be about it for today's services. We had a nice little time here. Anybody have any questions with anything that was done, said? in today's lesson, yes.
Brother, I was going to say, when I talk about the sheep, there's a parable in Enoch, it's about the parable of the animals, and Israel was also referred to as sheep, whereas the other nations were referred to as other animals.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Rob, we have any announcements? Pt6 is right around the corner.
Yeah, so I sent out a text, an email to everyone. If you can respond, the date is for your response by August 28th, but if you can respond sooner, it'd be great. We're trying to get an estimate of how many people are coming, including the children and infants, and if you're going to be able to stay the entire week from October 7th to the 14th. So if you respond, let me know. That'd be good. We'll start with that. The location, so we asked the locations come down, but we asked that you do not put it on Facebook just for security purposes. So that part of the announcement will not be recorded, but I'll share with the congregation when we do the announcement part.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And again, it's $9 per person per day?
Shia has the amount. So right now, I'm just trying to gather how many people and for how long folks think they're staying. So
Okay.
Shia is handling what the cost will be per person for your household. We're also going to have suggested items to bring because I don't know how many y'all are camping, I've never done it, but it's good to know what to bring for camping. So we'll have that list.
They allow campfires out there?
I'm not sure.
Okay, they do? Okay.
And we're trying to plan activities also for each
Okay.
day as well.
Gotcha. All right, you can truck driver, huh? The only future event that I have, Alicia, she said she's going to keep in contact with me on doing the lesson, I guess, on this rites of passage, because I did the event. There's a part 2 to that, so we just want to make sure, again, everybody, yeah.
We're waiting on that.
Yeah, so we're going to be trying to put that together. And just to give like a quick snippet of what's going on, when we begin to look at some of the things that our women did to actually preserve the nation, is not commonly talked about. And just one, I don't even know if Maisha, she was aware of this, is that when you begin to look at John, the 11th chapter, verse 48, we had talked about roles and positions and not wanting to lose the authority amongst the Romans. We have to be able to identify who was actually those Pharisees at the time. Were they all Israelites or were they a mixture? Yeah. Yeah. And we began to look at the Hasmonean dynasty, the Maccabees, and what was happening at that time. Why didn't the Mashiyach get immersed by any of those priests there? But he actually now was immersed now by Yahuah. And where was Yahuah living at? Because he was not living in Jerusalem. We began to look at the Hasmonean dynasty, and I'm just a little bit, just a little snippet, how that whole thing came into play, because during the time of the Maccabees was almost destroyed. And so with the Hasmonean dynasty now, there came a point now where somebody needed to do something. It got real, real bad, because there was killed off, all right, all of that royal priest line. And so we have a very important woman during that time, and her name was Miriam. All right, Miriam. We need to know the ethnicity of Miriam. And then we have a very interesting individual. His name was Herod. We need to know who was Miriam's mother, and her mother's name was Alexandria. And so we have now Herod now being a white man, okay, this Edomite guy, because it makes mention that Herod was an Edomite. And how this mother, because it was about preserving the nation. So we had a woman by the name of Miriam during the Hasmonean dynasty. Now, her mother, which Miriam's mother got her to now actually marry this Edomite guy, okay, this so-called black woman. She married Herod now, but Herod now wanted rulership, or he wanted interest now into the temple. He was the one now who actually rebuilt the temple, but the temple being rebuilt now was not according to the exact specs now, the way that Solomon got it. But it talks about how Miriam hated this guy's guts, hated him, but she had to do what she needed to do in order to preserve the nation. Where she actually had 2 children by him, but we had another son that was actually now in line. His name was Aristocelius. He was the one that was next in line, but he was standing in the way of Herod. Herod eventually had him drowned and killed. Herod was such a psychotic guy. He then now went to Rome to meet the king there, and his name was, I think his name was Octavia. I think it might have been Octavia who he went to meet. And so what happened now was that Herod was such in love with Miriam that he had one of his security guys say, listen, you know what, if I don't come back alive, kill his wife Miriam.
Oh, wow.
So this thing was about a real big-time power structure where Herod went so lunatic, overpowered, and trying to kill that royal line. He eventually had his wife Miriam killed. An Israelite woman now had her killed, had her body now preserved in honey now for over a year, talking to her dead body. So there's a lot of history when you start to look at the Maccabees of what these women were actually doing now to actually preserve the nation. So I know we're going to get into that a little bit later, but there's a whole lot of history with that. They've been doing the work. Yeah, so there was a whole lot that was going on during that time, and we're going to bring it out. We're going to bring out some stuff because that history is going to be very, very important, especially when you begin to look at Alexander the Great, where he was actually,
I'm about to say that.
yeah, because he was actually mentioned in history, and we're going to go and look, and we're going to talk about power, and I did a class on it, and I only touched on it. The marriage and the brand. What people were actually doing to keep that line flowing. And we know now is when the Greeks, when Herod came on the scene and he actually married Miriam, this is when we begin to see now, they say, well, listen, you know what? The bloodline is now being carried through the woman. This is what happened, because remember, Herod was an Edomite. And remember now, what the Hasmoneans had did now is they said, listen, the Hasmoneans or the Maccabees said, what we're going to do now is that we want the Edomites now to convert over. And when they converted now, they became Jewish. And Miriam, we'll talk about it, all right? We'll be here, but listen, we're going to get into some stuff here, and this is the reason why we must really get to the true and in-depth understanding about marriage, the brand, and this is what the Mashiyach is talking about. This covenant that he made with his bride is forever. It's based upon Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. Okay, we're going to get into it. So there's nothing else. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So Zaken, Chief Zaken, we're going to blow the shofar. You're going to blow the shofar 7 times, and we'll have our up and coming. We have Shabbat. Yahuah in this with prayer.
our moray al Yahuah. We ask, Father, that as we woke up uprightly, circumspectly before you, that you keep us in remembrance of all these things. That, Father, we be a light unto this world and a light unto our brothers and sisters who are still asleep. Father, we just thank you for keeping us. We thank you, Father, for what you're doing with this Mishpachah, what you're doing with us individually in our personal lives. And we ask that you continue to prosper us and be with us in these evil days, Father. Keeping us in the right and the straight and narrow, Father. Broadening our, keeping us and clear of all those things that try to get us to that broad and that path that leads to destruction. Father, we just thank you for protecting us, sending your messenger Malakim, the guardian Malakim, to protect us and those that are not with us today. Father, we just thank you for these things, and we thank you for your Son, who was the atoning sacrifice for our sins, Father, our shortcomings, our transgression, our iniquity. And Father, we just thank you, and we ask that you forgive us for the sins of our forefathers, Father, and bring us on the right path, Father, and continue to work in us, Father, that we may, again, be that light. And we just give your name the praise, all the honor, and all the esteem. Hallelujah.